Okay, and welcome back to Yogis on the Road. And I'm here with Alexis, as usual. And we have a new guest tonight. We have Erin Vaughan.
Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm doing good. It's been a crazy
Life.
few weeks, years. But yeah, I'm
Awesome.
good.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited we have you here. We met for the first time the other day. We went to your class.
Yeah.
Right after our Ashtanga class. And
Right.
it was pretty intense. I loved it.
That is a long, intense class.
Yeah, I was thinking about that class today, and I have crap to do next Wednesday, and I was like, I think I'm going to try to get out of the crap that I need to do so I can go to the class again.
I hope so.
Because
Yeah.
it was so good.
It was nice to have you guys there.
Yeah.
Really strong practice.
What do you mix in your class? Because it was a little bit of Ashtanga. I felt a little bit of
Dharma Mittra. I used to teach Ashtanga. Well, I wasn't certified like you guys, but I did it anyway a long time ago. I would say like 17 years ago. And then I studied with Dharma Mittra, so I mix a lot of that in because his style is more playful. He's kind of like serious and military.
But like head spinning.
Yeah, like he used to start class like, okay, put your leg behind your head. He doesn't do that anymore, but he used to do stuff like that. And so that was kind of funny after doing Ashtanga for so long.
I like the mask that he has of his own face.
Oh, does he?
He put on a mask one time during one of the Mahasanas, and it was a mask of his own face.
That's kind of awesome.
I was like, this is terrifying.
It was one of my goals when I was younger, but I was like
To have a mask.
aspiring to be like Gene Simmons from Kiss, who has his own Halloween mask. But now Dharma has one too. Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Oh, and I mixed it with Bikram too.
Oh, cool.
I never trained in Bikram, but I just really like that sequence.
Yeah, it's a good one.
And I think it has some things that are valuable. So we mix those three.
It's pretty nice when you get to like a certain level of like practice where you kind of made your own sequence basically, because you would do the same thing, right? You were telling me.
Yeah, I like the idea of where like in Ashtanga and Bikram where it's the same thing every day. But then I think like primary series is too limited.
Yeah.
And then and Bikram is a little bit limited if you want to get advanced and do like hip opening. They don't have enough hip openings. So, I just made it the way I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. That's the point, where you like create your own stuff,
Yeah.
Cool. And what about the like, because, Ashtanga primary is like, therapeutic, practice, right? And then Ashtanga secondary is
nervous
system.
Right.
How do you play
What
with
do I call this one? It's like total chaos.
Yeah, hallucinogens.
Yeah, it's just like everything. But seriously, I look at things through the lens of the meridian system also. So we're looking at the organ, covering all of the pathways and all of the organs. And so that's kind of cool, but...
Would you say that the meridian system, right, because you're referring to kind of like Chinese medicine, would you say that correlates to the nadis in the yoga system or the nervous system in the Western system?
Yeah, it's similar. The meridian system is definitely not the same as the nadis that you will learn about.
Okay.
It's the same idea of little tubes of subtle energy, but they're not in the same place. But if you look at, so there's 20 meridians.
Okay.
There's 12 regular meridians that people know about, like bladder meridian. I don't know if people really know about
spleen.
them. Spleen, stomach, stuff like that. And then there's 8 other meridians that are more, or they're less well known, that are called the spiritual vessels or extraordinary vessels. And those are very similar to the nadis. So then you see 3 central channels, just like the nadis.
Okay.
So yeah, and those are the ones used in the alchemical, like the Taoist alchemical practices, the 3 central channels.
Nice.
So in that way, it's very similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there like a place where these 3 channels are, more or less, in our body when you think about them?
Yeah, well, they start in the pelvic floor or in the uterus, basically, and they go down to the pelvic floor, and then they go up.
They start in your uterus, Giuseppe.
Yeah.
Well, in Chinese medicine, men have a uterus.
Yeah, I mean, don't we all?
Yes, we're all women. It's true. Everyone is a female, but everyone's also a man.
It was interesting because when we were talking, yeah, totally. When we were talking to Guy about it, he was saying that, especially when you practice yoga.
Sorry, shout out to Guy.
I do it, yeah.
Just making fun of Guy.
That, like, men tend to have more of like female features, and female tend to have more. Like, you sort of trying to go in the middle and kind of have both energies.
You're trying
balanced.
to balance the male and female.
Yeah.
So you become like a hermaphrodite or an androgyne.
Cool.
Yeah.
A Shiva Shakti.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you also do acupuncture, right? You teach that, right?
I do acupuncture. I teach acupressure.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to open an acupuncture school. Give me like 2 years.
Yay.
Awesome. I just did my first today.
Oh,
and
yeah.
the first needle that he put like on my knee, like I started laughing so hard I couldn't stop.
It's kind of intense.
Yeah. And then he was saying, first time? I was like, yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
And I couldn't stop laughing. But it was pretty cool.
Nice. Yeah, I think people who do yoga can feel it more. You're more in tune with like the subtle energy moving in your body.
Yeah.
And it definitely works. It could be dramatic. If your channels are already open, especially, it works really fast.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between acupuncture and acupressure?
Acupressure doesn't use needles, just your finger pressure.
Oh, wow.
It's like shiatsu, same as shiatsu. So it's a form of massage.
Cool.
You do acupressure trainings?
Yes, I do acupressure trainings.
That's amazing.
Yes, like 5-day certification.
That sounds great. That's cool. It makes me think of like adjustments for teachers. It sounds almost like a continuing education program for yoga teachers.
Yeah, we combine it with yoga.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah, I'm actually curious about that part of your identity, the part where you blend Chinese medicine with yoga. Mm-hmm. And I guess I wonder how you got from classic yoga instruction to, I don't know, the Taoist side of your life. From like Dharma to acupressure.
Well, that's a funny story actually. Well, I wanted to learn the pathways. I wanted to learn about the nadis. Well, there's not that much information on the nadis.
I know. I don't know.
Especially in comparison to how much very specific, detailed information you can get on the meridian system. Yeah. It's very sophisticated science. It's very well, it's very detailed. Anyway.
Yes.
So I was studying with Dharma. And I went to massage school before I ever met Dharma, and I did trigger point massage for a long time, and then I met Dharma. I quit doing Ashtanga, and I was like, really into Dharma, and I actually lived at his studio, and I worked there full time, and then so I went on this trip with him one time, and I had to drive him. I was his driver, and it was terrifying.
Cool. No pressure.
Because I messed up. I went the wrong way, and he was like really mad. But anyway,
Dharma was mad.
Secrets.
He was kind of irritated. Okay, not mad. And then he's funny though. Yeah. And then so we were at Kripalu in Massachusetts, and he said, I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask him. I'm gonna say, Dharma, I want to learn about the nadis. What should I do? So I was like, nervous about it. I went and asked him. He was like, I don't know. It's like, get a book. Get a book. That's all he said. And I was like, oh, well, I guess I'm not supposed to learn about the nadis. But then, like with Dharma, I feel like he still helps you get what you want. Like he's funny. He's not gonna just tell you the answer. But I feel like he's really powerful. Being in his presence is really powerful. And so I found my way into it. I wanted to learn the nadis, and then I figured out later that it's not the nadis. I needed to learn the meridians. And then I had an amazing acupuncture.
How'd you find that out? Like, how'd you?
Oh God. Well, I had an acupuncturist, this old Chinese man.
Where?
That was in North Carolina.
Oh.
And he was an interesting person. That was like he had left China during the revolution, Tiananmen Square thing.
Oh wow.
He didn't leave because of that. He left right before it, and then he like got stuck in this country. And anyway, it's a long story.
Dang.
But he was like a really big doctor in China. And somehow he ended up in North Carolina.
It's funny how that happens.
Never went back to China, and then that's who I met. So it was kind of awesome. And he was like, "Here," he gave me needles, and he was like, "Here, just stick these in your muscles and see what happens. It'll be fine." He's like, "Acupuncture is easy. Just just start doing it to yourself." It's kind of crazy, but I started doing it, and he's like, "It's true. The thing is, it's true.
Yeah,
and it's really easy." And the points are really easy to find. Like, they just exist by themselves. They're there, and you can find them. You don't have to have a book. You don't have to know anything.
It sounds almost like somebody gave you, like some shaman gave you, like, ayahuasca and was like figure it out. Like, have a good time. And then you just kind of, like, shamaned yourself into professionalism.
Yeah. So anyway, that's how I got interested in it. And then I went... Then I was dating this Chinese man from Beijing, and he was like, "Massage is stupid. You have to go to acupuncture school or no one will respect you."
Oh.
I mean, I'm kind of weird. Anyway, so
the ninjas, they won't.
I was like, okay. And so I went to acupuncture school.
Where'd you go to acupuncture school?
I went to Tri-State, which just closed last year, but
like this whole time you're practicing yoga a lot?
Oh, every day.
Okay.
During acupuncture school, I was practicing yoga, and I would go see Dharma. Oh yeah, back on that.
And you were in North Carolina?
Well, I went to North Carolina for like 6 months because that's where I'm from.
Okay.
And like I got really sick. I had like walking pneumonia, and so I went back to North Carolina.
Isn't it crazy how you get really sick and it's like a spiritual experience? Because it like totally took you back to friggin' meet this guy.
To meet the Chinese
Mr. Tiananmen.
doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the Tiananmen Square incident like brought him to you in a sense too.
And then I had to come back. And that's when I met the other Chinese guy, went to acupuncture school. And then Dharma found out I was in acupuncture school, and he loved it. He asked me about it all the time. Every time he saw me, he's like, "How are the needles? How's it going?" And he was really, I could tell he was really proud of it. Like he really, it was like, he loved it.
That's great.
Yeah. So I felt like that was his answer to my question.
How did you fit, like how does acupuncture and acupressure fit into your frame of your yoga practice?
Oh, to me, they're the same. I mean, it's moving energy in the body. So then I say, when I was in acupuncture school and I was doing yoga every day, and I'm trying to learn the meridians.
Yes.
I would go into the poses, and there were the meridians, because I would learn about it. And that's how I learned it. And then I made up this meditation where you have to do the whole circuit. I mean, once you learn the stomach
what
meridian,
does it mean to make the whole circuit?
So there's 12 meridians, 12 regular meridians, and they flow in a continuous circuit. So there's like this loop where they travel through. Basically, it's like a full body scan. And so I would do that full body scan meditation of the 12 meridian circuit. And then in all the postures, I would be in wheel, for example, and I could feel the stomach meridian, which is basically the whole front body opening, and I could focus on it. And then each meridian also has an internal branch that goes into the organs. So you go and you stretch like the surface of the body, for example. And then if you know the internal branches, then you know like it connects from behind the collarbone and it goes down through the stomach and the spleen and through all the intestines. And then you could start to visualize and sense like what's happening in the postures is it's moving.
Wow.
Yeah, the energy through these very specific pathways. And I realized how powerful it was to go deeper into the postures.
Right.
Not just deeper like a contortionist, but deeper in terms of like
inside of your body.
Getting into the
like your
inner
organs.
Right. The inner body, the subtle body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that kind of corroborates the fact, like yoga as a science.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Totally. It's a medicine too.
Yeah.
I mean, yoga is a spiritual science, just like the Taoists. The Taoists took their system and made it into a medicine, which we call Chinese medicine. The yogis leaned more towards the spiritual science of how to get enlightened or realize the self. But they're basically the same. They're both medicine and they're both a spiritual
function
path.
of Chinese medicine is therapeutic healing, medicinal healing for the body, but the function of yoga is moksha.
Well, no, what I'm saying is they're both.
Yeah.
Like the Taoist lineage, which branched into Chinese medicine is a spiritual practice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah, in the revolution or in like the Communist Party or whatever, they took a lot of that weird stuff out of it. But it's all about the spirits inside the body.
Oh, yeah.
And about possession, demonic possession too, and all this.
Straight up.
That's where their medicine is like very shamanic.
Yeah.
But a lot of that stuff was taken out in maybe, I don't know, I'm not a historian, but like 1950s or something like that.
Yeah. No fact checks.
Yeah, good. Yeah, don't look that up. But the Chinese medicine that we receive as Americans has most of the spiritual stuff taken out of it. But it is a spiritual science.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's interesting because Western medicine completely takes out the whole soul part out of the equation, and it just tackles the body and compartmentalizes the body when it works as a whole.
Yeah, well, they make psychology like a thing instead of a spiritual. It doesn't, even psychology isn't really spiritual. It's like I don't know. I think they did leave out the part about, faith and hope and love.
Which I think it's a big part.
Yeah.
Probably the most important part of healing is the heart, is having a purpose and a desire to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. How did it all start for you? Like, how did you start Ashtanga? Was that like the first time?
Your yoga how did you come to your sadhana?
Yoga.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, let's see. I was in college. I studied science. I was always into religion and stuff, like super into like Christian mysticism and philosophy and stuff like that. And then I was always into like running and working out and stuff. And then I was like, I had this dark side too. So while I was in college, I was a stripper. Okay. And so it's funny because that's how I got more flexible, because I was really stiff. Nobody knows that. Okay, brand new information. Like, I was always really stiff until I became a stripper, and then it's like, you have to learn how to do some stuff.
Kali.
Right. And so anyway, at that same time, I was like, I'm going to take my first yoga class. I went to the YMCA, and I had this old lady was my teacher. Turns out, like, I was really lucky. She was, like, really cool. This was like 25 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
stripping, college, yoga, Christian mystic. That's you at this time.
Like St. Augustine, Confessions.
Sweet.
Really tortured.
In North Carolina.
North Carolina. Tortured, split between religion, science, sex, and, salvation and all that stuff. You can imagine.
Do you know the Agori?
Yes.
You sound like an Agori.
Oh.
Agori are like Agoria, like the path to enlightenment is like through the dark side, like the shadow. You like take the shadow.
Well, I came to that later. So at that time, and this is kind of important, is like I came to that later because at that time it was a split between the two. It was like there was a good and there was an evil.
Yeah, right.
And there was like a war between the two inside my own head.
Right. So you're like, how can I go to the YMCA and do yoga and be a stripper,
right,
and embrace my sexuality while I'm enjoying my body or something.
Right. It was like it was an intense split dichotomy. Yeah. Right. And it created a lot of problems for me mentally, and torture, real torture. Yeah. And I think that happens for a lot of people. But then I that's how I got to New York, because I met Bhagavan Das, who was my first real teacher. I mean, I had studied Ashtanga already. I even taught Ashtanga before I ever met him. You know, I did yoga. Then I got into Ashtanga and I started doing it every day. You know how it goes. And then, but I was still like tortured, because then I married a policeman. I was married to a cop. He was cool. He was like an Irish cop.
How did you get into Ashtanga?
I just went to the yoga studio and the lady was like, "You have to do Ashtanga." Because there was a big Ashtanga community there, and she could see that I was kind of athletic.
Yeah, it does breed like rigid perfectionist type folks.
Yeah, she could see like I was muscular and I like to work out. Mm-hmm. She's like, "You should just do Ashtanga." And then there was a really good community there. Yeah. And so then I started doing Mysore, and then it was like I was hooked. And I quit running, and you know, that was just my full practice was Ashtanga.
And then at this point, you're also still going through this like spiritual quest.
Oh, I've always been on a spiritual quest. But at that time,
like grappling with the...
Yeah, I was working at a hospital doing massage in a rehab center. I was married to a cop. And I was like trying to escape my past of being a stripper and among other things. I was everything. I just every kind of sex work possible. Yeah. And so it was like I was trying to escape it by doing, you know...
Sounds
working
like,
in a hospital,
like running away to an ashram or something.
Right. But I would like try to clean my life up. That only lasted for like 1.5 years. Okay. But you know, that was, and then it broke, and then I got divorced, and then I met Bhagavan Das like literally like 3 weeks later.
Isn't it funny how this shit happens? It happens literally every time.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he was like, "Oh, you're the holy whore. You have to come live in New York. You can live with me." You know, I was like, you know, that was really great for me. And he was like, "You have to, you know, you can't, you know." He just put everything together and said, like, "This is who you are. You're both at the same time."
Oh, great.
Yeah, he
sort of like helped you like put everything together and make sense of it. And
and he's a Gori. I mean, he's Kali and he's chaos. Yeah. And it was not easy. It was torture also. But it was like, that's what saved me.
So
I could have had no other teacher. He's the only person that could have saved me.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like he knows.
And it just happened at the right time.
Oh, yeah. It just showed up. I mean, I was into chanting because I was like, I had this Krishna Das album. And I used to play it constantly, like over and over, just in the room by myself. And I would cry and sing it. Yeah. And I was like, I should go to a kirtan. Then I was like, I looked up Bhagavan Das. No, I was just like, where's the nearest kirtan? And then it was Bhagavan Das. I had no idea that he was like the leader of all kirtan in this whole country. Yeah. And he just happened to be coming near me right then. And then I saw his picture and I was like, oh my God, that's the most beautiful person I've ever seen in my life. Yeah. You know how that is sometimes.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, and I was like, I have to go and I'm going to get this reading from him, you know, and that was it. That was the end.
That's so beautiful.
The beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like he put it all into a understanding for you. You know, like it just sounds like such a struggle to be able to like give you a frame for what was going on.
Yeah.
You know, I think about my own life and I'm like, I grapple with that. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, is this a lesson from God? What am I supposed to be learning? Why do other people tell me this is so bad? And I try to like understand what like the spiritual lesson is of certain things, you know, even with like pain and suffering. And clearly pain and suffering bring spiritual advancement, you know, like in your life, every time that I've had something really freaking terrible happen to me in my life, like the leftover aftermath of that has like catapulted me to the next stage and opened up a lot of new doors.
Yeah, I think suffering is definitely important.
Yeah.
Every suffering is just a teaching.
Yeah.
And a purification.
Yeah, it's part of the advancement. I was looking at pictures of Bhagavan Das, though. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's beautiful. He's beautiful. I mean, he's still beautiful. I mean, when I figured out later that I had seen a picture of him when I was 18 and become obsessed with it, and I didn't even realize it was the same person.
Oh wow!
I saw because there's a picture of him in the book "Be Here Now," which is Ram Dass' book, and I had this crazy boyfriend when I was 18, who was like an old hippie, and he had that book "Be Here Now," and he gave me that book, and I was just like obsessed with that picture of Bhagavan Das.
What's the picture?
It's just like a picture of him when he was young. And so it was just like, it's funny, you know, 30, 40, you have to get older, and then you realize like little things like that, they come back throughout your life. And those moments where something feels powerful, it might not mean anything for 10, 15, 20 years, but then you'll find out why later. It's cool.
Yeah. I think about
cool.
Like that. I know me and Giuseppe we have like discussed like what happens before you incarnate, and there's like a rumor that people will get primed with things. And it'll be like, okay, when you feel this really strong feeling, that's your like sign to go that way. And then you get your like soul gets primed with that before you go into your body. And I like think about that sign for you. It's like, oh, you had this picture of this guy, and you like love him, and you have this really strong signal of his face, and then the urgency to go to the kirtan and the timing on that, and those might have been like, you know, activation signals before your incarnation amnesia set in.
Yeah, I mean, life is very interesting.
Yeah,
totally.
The way it unfolds, and it seems like a lot of pain, but I think as you get older, you start to realize that the pain is a gift. It's a purification.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're young, it seems like you're gonna die from it.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's the end of the world, and you're gonna die. Because I work with young people now, and I see like they're first experiencing these like deep kinds of pain, like heartbreak. Or just like fear of like, what are you going to be? Like, how's it going to go? And like looking at them now, I'm like, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Like it's actually going to get worse. Like just relax. Just get ready.
That's really encouraging. I'm sure they love that.
This is nothing. Wait and see what comes next.
Yeah.
But that like, it has meaning, and that it's actually really beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So.
I mean, last time when we saw each other, we talked about your next project, which I think is super cool. I wanted to maybe ask you about that. We're just going to maybe take a couple minutes break, and then we come back with the second part and we talk about that.
Sounds
okay?
Good.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. See you in a few. Ciao.